Okay, so plenty of mining stocks lately have been falling to their lowest price in a year and more. But Toronto-based vanadium producer Largo has been hitting new highs. We're joined by the CEO, Mark Smith. It's great to see you, Mark.
Thank you, Andrew. Pleasure to be here.
You've been in mining for, I think, about 37 years.
Long time.
You're heading up this mine now in Brazil that produces vanadium, and there's not many pure-play vanadium mines in the world.
Well, we are the only pure-play vanadium company and only 3 primary mines in the world.
What about, so just tell us, you're mining in Brazil, now vanadium more than $20 a pound last time I looked. What's your cost base?
Our cost base is $4 a pound, and actually today's prices just came out $22.25 to $23 a pound. So we are making huge margins on our vanadium right now.
Are you selling it for $20 and up a pound?
Almost market price is what we get for it.
You sell it right now, all your vanadium to Glencore, I believe.
That's correct, 100%.
Right, and do they own a piece of you?
They do not own a piece of us, but they do have their own vanadium operation, and they combine their materials and our materials, and they have a large position in vanadium throughout the world.
Now, vanadium is mostly used right now for very high-quality steel alloys.
Correct. High-strength, low-alloy steels. About 91% of the vanadium in the world is used in steel. Half of that is in rebar. And so it's a very important part of our life because it increases the yield strength of the steel, and that makes these buildings safe from earthquakes, seismic activities. Bridges makes them safe. Very important part of our life.
And how much vanadium would you need in a chunk of rebar, percentage-wise, to really get that effect?
You need 1 kilogram of vanadium, V2O5, per ton of steel.
1,000th.
And it doubles the yield strength of that steel.
It's amazing.
It's an amazing element.
It's almost a magical effect, some of these alloys, isn't it? Yeah. It's like scandium and aluminum.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But China, I gather, is tightening up on the rebar standards, and that's good for you.
It's very good. They are tightening up. They passed a new regulation in February of this year. It becomes effective in November of this year. That demand for vanadium is going to go up by 10 to 15,000 tons per year. We're already in a supply deficit. So this is going to create additional chaos in the market.
Now, you say another bull factor here is that a lot of vanadium comes right now. It's in iron ore, and it's produced by steel companies as a byproduct, but they really don't care about it. It's a rounding error.
Exactly. It's a byproduct in the steel manufacturing process. So the iron ore process of creating the vanadium product is really an inelastic supply source. The steel companies are never going to produce more steel to produce more vanadium.
They don't care.
They don't care about it. So it's the primary producers, the 3 primary producers are going to have to step up and fill this supply deficit.
And is Glencore a primary producer?
They are.
Right. Where is, sorry?
South Africa.
South Africa.
About the same size facility as we have. We are expanding our production next year, and we're going to look at other ways to expand our production as well. We take the supply side very seriously. We want to be there for the industry.
And so how many pounds will you produce this year, roughly?
About 21 million pounds.
Well, that's interesting. That's a bit like the amount of uranium that Cameco used to produce.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Anyway,
okay.
But, anyway, so I'm looking now at H.C. Wainwright, a report from April, so it's a bit dated. They had your total debt at $241 million.
Correct. That is Canadian, I believe.
Yeah, yes, it is Canadian.
We now have about $155 million U.S. in debt. We are very focused with the cash we're generating to paying off that debt and putting the company with as strong of a balance sheet as possible.
And so your production, I think you said, would be just over 20 million pounds this year. Next year, year after, what would it be, do you think?
With the expansion project, we'll go up to 26.5 million pounds, and we've got a couple of little operational tweaks that we want to do to maybe get that up to 29 million pounds a year. The next phase would be a major expansion where we would probably double the production level.
And is it an open pit or underground?
An open pit mine.
In Brazil. What kind of a territory is it in Brazil? Is it remote?
It's very remote and it's very arid, so we don't have any real water issues. We have a good supply of water, but rain and whatnot is never a factor at our facility.
What is vanadium? Could you make jewelry out of it? Would it be suitable for that? Is it heavy stuff?
Probably wouldn't look very, very pretty at the end of the day. It's kind of a bluish gray metal when you produce it. Looks a lot like silver, actually, but it doesn't perform like silver. It's not going to have flexibility. It's very heavy.
Now, one thing down the road, and I guess this could be years ahead, is these gigantic batteries they might use to store electricity for utilities. Is that still a long way off?
It's not. We have companies who are designing these batteries today. They're being installed by utility companies today. And what you're going to see is as the renewable energy sources come online, they have to have batteries to help get those wind turbines and the solar panels to function when the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow. So batteries are going to be a huge component of that. Vanadium redox flow batteries will be a large part of that because they're big, they're efficient, and they can have long discharge times.
Now, I think we're looking at footage from your mine here, Mark.
Yes, we are.
So how much ore are you moving every day?
About 1,000 tons of ore a day.
Well, that's not very much. I mean,
so
you're happy to be doing that, not
exactly.
have to move too much rock.
We have the highest ore grade for vanadium in operation in the world today.
What is your grade, roughly?
1.15% on average.
That's interesting. So it's a high-value metal. I mean, that's the beauty of it,
Yes.
$20 a pound.
Correct. Although a year ago, remember, it was about 5.
Right. I think
So
we've
the shortage has really, come to play now.
Oh, you're saying it's quadrupled in a year?
Yes.
Okay. But you always have to be careful, don't you, with these fairly small metal markets? They're a bit obscure, aren't they?
They can be. We monitor this situation very tightly. We watch that demand. We watch what the supply is. We look at what the future supply can be. We think we're going to be in this pricing environment for a significant period of time, maybe 3 to 5 years.
And what about the Chinese? Do they have their own vanadium source?
Well, they do in the iron ore that they produce domestically, but then they process that as a co-product in their steel production process. So it's an inelastic supply. The Chinese steel companies will never mine more steel to produce more vanadium, regardless of price.
Right. And so you're at 20 million pounds this year, roughly. What is the total world demand? Can you give us a rough number?
Yeah, absolutely. It's 88,000 metric tons of vanadium on in 2017, and then this year is a transitional year as that new Chinese standard comes into play. In 2019, that demand is going to be 98,000 to 105,000 metric tons of vanadium. And we produce about 80 to 82,000 a year. So this shortage is very serious and very critical right now.
And what percent roughly of world supply would you be?
We are between 6 and 7%.
That's respectable.
Very respectable, and next year we'll go up to about 8 to 9.
Mark, thanks very much. Fascinating story.
Very fun to be here, Andrew. Thank you very much.
Mark Smith, President and CEO at Largo Resources. Stick with us. We'll check in on gasoline.